The Whispering, a fantasy sleep story, presented by Bedtime Stories. Make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath. And now, let the story begin. Elara had always heard the world differently. Where others heard the rustle of leaves, she heard the sigh of the wind through each individual vein, a chorus of tiny, vibrant life. Where others heard the distant calls of the forest, she heard the subtle shift in a badger's burrow, the silent unfurling of a fern frond, the hum of ancient roots deep beneath the earth. It was a gift, or perhaps a peculiar burden, bestowed upon her at birth, in the quiet village of Oakhaven, nestled at the very edge of the vast mystical Whisperwood. Oakhaven was a village woven from the forest itself. Houses were built into the hollows of ancient oaks, their roofs thatched with moss and woven branches. Smoke curled lazily from stone chimneys, carrying the scent of hearth fires and baking bread. Life here moved with the unhurried rhythm of the seasons, dictated by the sun's journey across the sky and the gentle murmur of the Whisperwood that cradled them. For generations, the villagers had lived in harmony with the forest, drawing sustenance from its bounty, respecting its silent power. Yet, it was never truly silent. Not for Elara. Her apprenticeship to Master Thorn, the village's lore-keeper, only deepened her connection to the world of sound and story. Master Thorn was a man as old as the oldest oak in the village square, with eyes like polished river stones and a laugh that rumbled like distant thunder. He taught Elara the language of the old scrolls, the names of the star patterns, and the intricate tales of their ancestors who had first settled this verdant valley. But mostly, he taught her to listen. "The world speaks in many tongues, Elara," he would say, his voice a dry whisper itself, as they sat by the hearth, the scent of dried herbs and ancient parchment filling the small, cozy lore-house. "The river speaks of its journey, the stone of its age, and the wind. Ah, the wind carries the very breath of the Whisperwood itself." And it was the Whisperwood that held the deepest fascination for Elara. Its boundaries were marked not by fences, but by an invisible threshold of sound. Beyond the last village cottage, where the path dissolved into tangled roots and sun-dappled glades, the air thickened with an omnipresent, ethereal murmur. This was the Whispering, as the villagers called it, a constant, gentle symphony of unseen voices, carried on currents of air that seemed to flow from the very heart of the forest. It wasn't merely the sound of wind in trees, it was more. A tapestry of faint melodies, almost words, forgotten sighs, and the echoing laughter of long-past summers. Sometimes, if Elara listened very closely, she could distinguish individual strands, the faint, sorrowful hum of a willow, the bright, sparkling chime of a hidden spring, the deep, resonant thrum of the earth itself. It was the forest's song, its living memory, its very soul made audible. For as long as Elara could remember, the Whispering had been a comforting presence, a lullaby that rocked Oakhaven to sleep and greeted it with the dawn. It was predictable, a familiar backdrop to life. But lately, things had begun to change. It started subtly, a barely perceptible shift in the forest's nocturnal symphony. Elara, often awake long after the village slept, listening to the world outside her window, noticed it first. The melodies, once so harmonious, began to fray at the edges. A new note, discordant and sharp, would occasionally pierce the gentle drone, only to vanish as quickly as it appeared. Then, the almost words started to become clearer. Not clear enough to understand, but distinct enough to make her ears prickle. Fragments of phrases, like pebbles tumbling down a distant slope, seemed to echo just beyond her grasp. One morning, as she helped Master Thorn grind rare moon-petal petals for a calming poultice, she mentioned it. "Master," she began, her voice soft, "have you noticed anything different about the Whispering lately?" Master Thorn paused, his gnarled fingers stilling over the mortar and pestle. He lifted his head, his eyes seeming to peer through the thick walls of the lore-house and into the depths of the forest. "Different, child? The forest breathes as it always has. Perhaps your ears are playing tricks on you, seeking new tales where old ones suffice." Elara shook her head, her brow furrowed. "No, master, it's not a trick. Last night I heard a pattern, a repeating sound, like a bell, but muffled. And then a series of 3 quick, soft thumps. And then a whisper, clearer than any I've heard before, though I couldn't make out the words." Master Thorn hummed, a low, thoughtful sound. He resumed his grinding, the rhythmic scrape-thumpum of the pestle filling the silence. The whisperwood has its moods, Ilara. Sometimes it dreams vividly, sometimes it recalls forgotten things. It is a living entity, vast and ancient. But this felt different, Ilara insisted. It felt urgent, and it keeps happening. The bell-like sound, the 3 thumps, the clearer whisper, every few hours it cycles through. It's almost as if it's trying to tell us something. Master Thorn stopped again, this time placing the pestle down with a soft click. He turned fully to Ilara, his gaze sharp and unblinking. Urgent, you say? A cycle? Tell me more, child. Describe the whisper, the feeling it imparts. Ilara closed her eyes, recalling the sensation. It's not sad, not angry. It's longing, and a little lost, like a thread trying to find its way through a tapestry, and the whisper itself. It's like a breath, a human breath, but magnified 1,000 times, carrying something on its current. A long silence settled between them, broken only by the crackle of the hearth fire. Master Thorn's expression had shifted, a flicker of something ancient and unreadable passing through his eyes. He rose slowly, his joints protesting with soft creaks, and shuffled towards a towering shelf laden with scrolls and leather-bound tomes. He ran a finger over their spines, his gaze distant, as if sifting through memories. There are old tales, Ilara, he finally said, pulling a thin, brittle scroll bound with silver thread from a hidden niche. Tales of a time before Oakhaven, even before the great oaks themselves were saplings. A time when the whispering was not merely a backdrop, but a direct conduit. A time when the forest spoke to certain individuals, not in riddles, but in clear, undeniable words. He carefully unrolled the scroll, its parchment dry and yellowed with age. Intricate symbols and elegant script, faded by centuries, covered its surface. Ilara leaned closer, her heart thrumming with anticipation. These are the lore songs of the first speakers, Master Thorn explained, his voice hushed. Those who were attuned to the deepest currents of the whisperwood. They say that when the balance of the world shifted, when the veil between realms grew thin, the forest would choose a voice, a guide, and its whispers would sharpen, becoming focused, directing those who would listen towards a purpose. A purpose? Ilara breathed. Yes, often it was to restore something lost, to mend something broken, or to awaken something dormant. The lore songs speak of specific patterns, specific calls that would precede such an awakening. A bell of echoes, they called it, followed by 3 earth heartbeats, and then the clear breath of the elder. Ilara's eyes widened. The bell-like sound, the 3 thumps, the clearer whisper, that's exactly what I've been hearing. Master Thorn nodded slowly, a profound gravity settling on his features. Indeed, for centuries these patterns have been dormant, relegated to the realm of myth. The whispering has been in a gentle hum, a distant memory of its former power. But if what you say is true, Ilara, if the patterns of the first speakers are stirring once more, then something significant is happening in the whisperwood. Something that may require more than just listening. A thrill, both exhilarating and terrifying, shot through Ilara. What does it mean, Master? Why now? The lore songs are vague on the why, Master Thorn admitted, tracing a finger over a particularly intricate symbol on the scroll. They speak of the fading, a gradual diminishing of the forest's light, and the return, a time when the forest would seek to rekindle its ancient magic. Perhaps the fading has reached its limit, and the whisperwood is now calling for its return. He looked at Ilara, his gaze piercing. And perhaps, child, it is calling to you. Ilara felt a lump form in her throat. Her? A simple apprentice whose only special skill was hearing too much. But why me? I don't have any special powers, Master. I only listen. And that, Ilara, Master Thorn said with a gentle smile, is often the most powerful gift of all. To truly listen without judgment, without expectation. To hear what others cannot or will not. The first speakers were not chosen for their strength or their magic, but for their receptiveness, for their ears and for their heart. He rolled up the ancient scroll, tucking it back into its niche. We must be cautious, Ilara. The whisperwood is ancient and powerful. Its paths are not always straightforward, and its secrets are often guarded by more than just tangled roots. But if the forest is indeed calling, it is a call that cannot and perhaps should not, be ignored. That night, Elara found it impossible to sleep. The insistent pattern of the whispering filled her small room, the muffled, bell-like chime, the 3 soft thumps, and then the clearer, yearning breath. It was no longer a distant sound. It felt closer, more immediate, as if the forest itself was pressing against the walls of the law house, whispering directly into her mind. She rose from her bed, pulling on a warm cloak. The moon, a sliver of silver light, cast long shadows through the village. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. She walked silently through Oak Haven, past the slumbering houses, towards the edge of the Whisperwood. The boundary markers, 3 ancient standing stones etched with protective runes, seemed to pulse faintly in the moonlight. As she stepped past them, the change was profound. The whispering enveloped her, a tangible presence. It was no longer a distant symphony, but a multitude of individual voices, weaving around her, through her. The bell-like chime was clearer now, resonating deep in her chest. The 3 earth heartbeats felt like actual vibrations beneath her feet. And the clear breath of the elder. It was almost a word, a single, drawn-out syllable. Like a sigh of longing, repeated over and over. Way. It wasn't a warning, or a command. It was an invitation. A direction. Elara hesitated, her heart pounding. Master Thorn's words echoed in her mind. The forest speaks to certain individuals, directs them towards a purpose. And his warning, its paths are not always straightforward. Secrets are often guarded. But the longing in the whisper was too potent to ignore. It pulled at her, a gentle, irresistible current. It felt like the forest itself was reaching out, not with a demand, but with a plea. Taking a deep breath, Elara stepped off the familiar village path and into the deeper shadows of the Whisperwood. The trees grew taller here, their branches intertwining to form a dense canopy that filtered the moonlight into dappled patterns on the forest floor. The air was cooler, richer with the scent of loam and growing things. The whispering grew louder, more distinct. It wasn't just a way now. It was a faint, almost melodic phrase, a sequence of sounds that seemed to lead her. She followed, her steps light, guided by the unseen current. The path beneath her feet, barely visible, seemed to unfold before her as she walked, illuminated not by light but by sound. The leaves rustled with a different cadence, the insects hummed in unison, and even the distant hoot of an owl seemed to point her forward. Deeper and deeper she went, past trees whose boughs hung heavy with glowing moss, past ferns that unfurled in delicate spirals, past streams that gurgled with liquid silver. The familiar comfort of the Whisperwood began to give way to something else, an ancient stillness, a profound sense of power that hummed just beneath the surface of the earth. The whispering intensified, converging into a single, focused point ahead. The bell-like chime was now a clear, resonant tone, pulling her forward. The 3 earth heartbeats vibrated through the ground, leading her steps. And the clear breath of the elder was no longer just Achway, but a series of distinct sounds, forming a name, or perhaps a place. Silvanus. She pushed through a curtain of thick, dew-laden vines and gasped. Before her, nestled in a small clearing, stood a ruin. Not a crumbling stone edifice, but something far more ancient, far more organic. It was a structure built entirely from wood, but wood that had long ago petrified, turning to a dark, lustrous stone-like material, still retaining the swirling grain of its original form. Great, gnarled roots, thick as ancient tree trunks, formed archways and pillars, rising impossibly high into the sky. Their surfaces were covered in glowing, bioluminescent lichens that cast an otherworldly, soft emerald light over the clearing. At the center of this root cathedral stood a pedestal, and on the pedestal, pulsing with a faint inner light, lay an object. It was small, no larger than her palm, shaped like a teardrop. It seemed to be made of pure, solidified moonlight, shimmering with all the colors of the aurora borealis. As Elara stepped closer, the whispering coalesced around the object, no longer a general hum, but a distinct, melodious song pouring from the teardrop itself. And then a single clear voice, as pure as a silver bell, spoke directly into her mind, not through her ears, but through her very being. "You have found the heart of the Whisperwood, Elara. And now, The true journey begins. The voice resonated not just in her mind, but through every fiber of her being, a shiver of pure, sweet understanding that settled deep in her heart. Elara gasped, not from fear, but from a profound awe that stole her breath. The teardrop, nestled amidst the roots, pulsed with a gentle inner light, its aurora colors swirling like trapped galaxies. The air around it hummed, no longer just the whispering, but a symphony of untold melodies. Each note a story, a memory, a breath of the ancient wood. The heart of the whisperwood, Elara whispered aloud, her own voice sounding small and fragile against the grand song of the forest. She knelt, drawn by an irresistible force, her hand hovering above the shimmering object. It felt warm, like sunlight captured and held, radiating a comforting energy that seeped into her fingertips before she even touched it. The voice returned, softer now, like a lullaby woven from starlight. Yes, Elara. The living memory, the vibrant core, the very pulse of this forest. For centuries it has slept, its song muted, its light dimmed, waiting for one who could truly listen. Why me? Elara thought, a tremor of doubt mingling with her wonder. I'm just me. The voice seemed to chuckle, a sound like wind chimes made of crystal. You are more than just you, little listener. You carry a kindness that resonates with the oldest roots, a curiosity that seeks the hidden paths, and a spirit bright enough to stir the slumbering magic. The whisperwood chooses its own. As the voice spoke, the teardrop pulsed again, and from its depths, a gentle mist, scented with dew and night-blooming jasmine, unfurled. It didn't obscure her view, but rather clarified it, painting the ancient glade in sharper, more luminous hues. Within the mist, images began to coalesce, fleeting, ethereal visions. She saw towering trees, their branches reaching for a sky ablaze with 1,000 suns, their leaves shimmering with colors she'd never imagined. She saw rivers of liquid starlight flowing through valleys of glowing moss, and creatures of pure light dancing in meadows of singing flowers. This was the whisperwood as it once was, vibrant and full, its magic unbound. Then, the images flickered, grew fainter, tinged with a sorrowful gray. The colors bled, the light dimmed, the rivers slowed to a trickle. The joyous music faded into a mournful sigh. The whisperwood is weary, Elara, the voice explained, its tone laced with a gentle sadness. Its song has grown faint because the threads that weave its magic are fraying. The ancient connections to the moondew springs, the sun-kissed glades, the star-spun caverns, they weaken with each passing season. What can I do? Elara asked, her heart aching for the fading beauty she had witnessed. You must reawaken them, the voice replied, a note of hope blooming in its tone. You must walk the ancient paths, listen to the forgotten melodies, and rekindle the light in the places where it has dimmed. You must gather the scattered echoes of the whisperwood's true song. This is the true journey, Elara, to heal the heart of a forest one spark of magic at a time. As the voice finished, a small shimmering fragment detached itself from the heart of the whisperwood. It was no bigger than her smallest fingernail, a perfect miniature teardrop of solidified moonlight, pulsing faintly with its own aurora colors. It floated gently towards her, settling into the palm of her outstretched hand. It was cool to the touch, yet vibrated with a contained energy. This is a seat of the heart, the voice explained. It will guide you. It will pulse brighter when you are near a place that needs your touch, a place where the whisperwood's song has fallen silent. Let your heart be its compass, and your kindness its fuel. Elara clutched the tiny seed, feeling its warmth spread through her palm, up her arm, and into her chest. A quiet determination settled over her. She had found the heart, and now she had a purpose. Your first path lies north, little listener, the voice whispered, its essence seeming to spread throughout the glade, a comforting presence. Seek the moondew meadow. Its spring has run dry, and its flowers weep for the lost light. With a final lingering glance at the magnificent heart, Elara rose. The glade seemed to glow even brighter now, as if the heart, having found its listener, had renewed its own hope. Taking a deep breath, Elara turned and stepped out of the ancient glade, the tiny seed of light warm and pulsing in her hand, guiding her towards the deeper unknown reaches of the whisperwood. The forest immediately changed around her. The familiar trees she had passed earlier now seemed to lean in, their leaves rustling with what felt like encouragement. The path, once faintly visible, now shimmered with a soft, ethereal glow, as if threads of moonlight had been spun into the very earth. Bioluminescent moss, which she had only glimpsed before, now carpeted the forest floor in intricate patterns, illuminating her way with a gentle, cool light. She noticed things she hadn't before. Tiny winged creatures, no bigger than her thumb, darted between the glowing branches, their wings leaving trails of stardust. These were the firefly sprites, their silent dance a constant celebration of the forest's hidden magic. Flowers she'd thought were merely white now unfurled petals of iridescent silver and softest lavender, their stamens glowing like miniature suns. The air itself tasted sweeter, carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine, damp earth, and something indefinably ancient and pure. The seed in her hand pulsed steadily, a gentle thrum against her skin, pulling her northward. She walked deeper into the whisper wood, a sense of quiet wonder filling her with each step. The forest was no longer just a collection of trees. It was a living, breathing entity, and she was now an intrinsic part of its rhythm. After what felt like an hour, the forest began to open up. The trees, while still ancient and majestic, spaced themselves out, allowing more of the sky to filter through. And what a sky it was! Though it was still night, patches of deep indigo were interwoven with streaks of perpetual twilight, as if dawn and dusk danced together in an endless waltz above the canopy. The glow from the seed in her hand intensified, throbbing with a soft, urgent rhythm. Ahead, through a curtain of shimmering silverbell vines, Alara saw it, a wide open clearing bathed in an ethereal bluish light. This must be the Moondew Meadow. But it was not as the heart had described the vibrant whisperwood. The meadow was beautiful, yes, but tinged with a profound sadness. The grass, once surely lush and vibrant, was now a pale silvery gray. The flowers, which should have been glistening with dew, hung limp and colorless, their petals brittle. In the center of the meadow stood a small circular pool, its basin dry and cracked, reflecting no light, holding no water. The air here was still, silent, devoid of the gentle hum of the whispering that permeated the rest of the forest. It truly was a place where the song had fallen silent. Ilara's heart went out to the meadow. She knelt beside one of the withered flowers, a delicate bloom that still held the ghost of its former beauty. Its petals felt like dry tissue paper, fragile and cold. The seed in her hand throbbed almost painfully now, urging her to act. "What do I do?" she whispered to herself, looking at the barren spring, the colorless flowers. The heart had said to rekindle the light, but how? She wasn't a wizard. She didn't know spells. She closed her eyes, trying to remember the feeling of the heart of the whisperwood. The comforting warmth, the melodious song. She thought of the vibrant visions she had seen, the rivers of starlight, the dancing sprites. She imagined the Moondew Meadow as it once was, alive with shimmering dew and vibrant colors. Then an idea, simple and pure, bloomed in her mind. Kindness. Pest. The heart had mentioned her kindness. What did kindness do? It nurtured, it shared, it gave. Ilara gently cradled the withered flower in her hands. She thought of all the joy the whispering had brought her, all the wonder she had felt since entering this magical forest. She focused on the tiny seed in her palm, imagining its light spreading, growing, nourishing. And then she began to sing. It wasn't a grand, practiced song. It was a soft, simple melody, a lullaby her grandmother used to sing to her, filled with love and comfort and the promise of sweet dreams. Her voice, though a little shaky at first, grew steadier, imbued with the pure intention of wanting to bring life back to this sorrowful place. As she sang, a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer began to emanate from the seed in her hand. It pulsed in rhythm with her song, and a tiny thread of its aurora colors seemed to stretch out, touching the withered flower she held. Slowly, miraculously, the flower's petals began to unfurl, a faint silver sheen returning to them. A tiny drop of pure, glistening dew appeared at its center, catching the ethereal light of the meadow. Ilara's eyes widened. She sang on, her voice gaining strength, hope soaring in her heart. The shimmer from the seed intensified, spreading outwards like ripples in a pond. It touched the ground and a faint, silvery green blush returned to the grass. It brushed against other flowers and one by one they stirred, their petals regaining their delicate colors, each one forming a single, perfect moon-dew drop. The dry spring in the center of the meadow began to gleam. A faint silvery mist rose from its cracked basin, swirling and coalescing. Then, with a soft bubbling sound, a single drop of liquid light welled up from its depths. It shimmered, catching all the gentle lights of the meadow, before another followed, and another, until a tiny rivulet of liquid moonlight began to flow, filling the basin. The moon-dew meadow was reawakening. As the spring filled, a new sound joined Ilara's lullaby, a soft, melodic hum, like 1,000 tiny bells tinkling in the breeze. It was the whispering, returning to the meadow, now clearer and more joyful than ever before. The firefly sprites, drawn by the renewed light, began to dance in the air above the spring, their stardust trails weaving intricate patterns. Ilara finished her song, her voice soft with emotion. The meadow was transformed. The grass was a vibrant, silvery green, sparkling with countless moon-dew drops. The flowers bloomed in a tapestry of iridescent silver, lavender, and softest azure, each holding a perfect glowing pearl of dew. The spring overflowed, creating a small clear stream of liquid moonlight that meandered through the meadow, nourishing everything it touched. She looked down at the seed in her hand. It still pulsed, but its light was softer, more contented, as if it had accomplished its task here. A warm sense of satisfaction bloomed in her chest. She had done it. She had helped the whisperwood. As she knelt, admiring her work, a faint shimmer caught her eye near the newly flowing moon-dew spring. From behind a cluster of freshly bloomed silver-bell flowers, a tiny creature emerged. It was no bigger than her palm, shaped like a moth, but its wings were made of pure, translucent light, constantly shifting through the colors of the aurora, just like the heart of the whisperwood. Its body was slender and glowed with an inner gentle luminescence, and its two large eyes, dark and ancient, seemed to hold the wisdom of centuries. It fluttered slowly towards her, its light leaving a faint trail in the air. It landed gently on the tip of her outstretched finger, its tiny feet soft as gossamer. A melody of kindness. A new voice chimed in her mind, delicate and airy, like the rustle of silk leaves. "A song that truly listens. You have done well, little listener." Ilara gasped, startled but not afraid. You speak," she thought, looking at the luminous moth. "I am Lumina," the moth replied, its voice a cascade of tiny melodic notes. "A guardian of the moon-dew springs, a keeper of the whisperwood's light. I have watched over this meadow for ages, my heart growing heavier with each fading bloom. And now, you have brought back its song." Lumina's luminous body pulsed with gratitude. "The heart told me to come here," Ilara explained, holding up the seed. "It said the spring had run dry." "The heart speaks true," Lumina confirmed, fluttering gently off her finger and hovering at eye level. "It has been silent for too long, its whispers too faint for most to hear. But you, Ilara, you listened, and now you are part of its reawakening." Lumina spun a graceful circle in the air. "The moon-dew meadow is but one thread in the great tapestry of the whisperwood. There are many more that have frayed, many more melodies that have fallen silent. The heart needs many such sparks of kindness to truly sing again." "Where do I go next?" Ilara asked, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "The heart gave me this seed, but it only led me here." Lumina tilted its head, its ancient eyes twinkling. "The seed has done its work here, yes, but fear not, little listener. The heart speaks through me now, and through the very essence of the forest itself. Your next path leads to the whispering willow glade, deep in the heartwood. Its dreams have grown thin, and its stories are fading." "Dreams and stories?" Ilara pondered. "How do I rekindle those?" "The whispering willow is an ancient dreamer," Lumina explained, its voice carrying a note of reverence. "It gathers the hopes and dreams of all the forest creatures, weaving them into luminous tapestries in its branches. But its dreams are now troubled, its stories forgotten. Perhaps a new story, a tale of kindness and wonder is what it needs." Lumina settled gently on Ilara's shoulder, its light a comforting presence. "I shall guide you, Ilara. My light knows the hidden paths, and my ears hear the faintest echoes of the heart's song." With Lumina as her guide, Elara stepped out of the reawakened moondew meadow. The path ahead seemed to deepen, leading them into an even more ancient part of the Whisperwood. The trees here were impossibly tall, their trunks gnarled and thick, their branches intertwining so tightly that they formed a perpetual canopy, letting only slivers of the ethereal sky peek through. The air grew stiller, heavier, filled with the scent of old wood and forgotten secrets. The bioluminescent moss grew thicker here, painting the ground in swirling patterns of emerald and sapphire. Strange, bell-shaped flowers hung from vines, chiming softly as Elara and Lumina passed, their petals glowing with a gentle inner light. Elara felt a subtle change in the whispering here. It was deeper, more resonant, like the murmur of ancient voices sharing long-held secrets. She felt as if she was walking through the very memory of the forest. Lumina, perched on her shoulder, occasionally pulsed brighter, indicating a particularly enchanting sight, a river of pure silver flowing silently between mossy banks, its surface reflecting the glowing canopy like a liquid mirror, a cluster of enormous crystalline mushrooms that pulsed with a slow, rhythmic beat, like the heart of the earth, or a family of small, furry creatures with eyes like polished emeralds, peeking out from hollows. These were the moss folk, gentle inhabitants of the deepest woods. The Whisperwood is so much bigger than I ever imagined, Elara marveled, her voice soft. Its roots reach deep into the world's slumber, and its branches touch the edge of the sky song, Lumina replied, its voice a soft chime. Every leaf, every stone, every creature is a part of its grand symphony, and when one part falters, the whole feels its sorrow. As they journeyed, Elara couldn't help but feel a growing connection to the forest. It wasn't just a place she was helping, it was becoming a part of her hair. The whispers seemed to flow through her, the light of the moss felt like a gentle embrace, and the stories Lumina shared, about ancient river spirits and mischievous sprite families, filled her with a sense of belonging. Finally, after what felt like an age of peaceful trekking, Lumina pulsed brightly and fluttered ahead. We are here, little listener. The Whispering Willow Glade. They stepped into a vast, circular clearing. In its center stood a single, colossal willow tree, unlike any Elara had ever seen. Its trunk was as wide as a small cottage, its bark a swirling tapestry of deep greens and silvers. Its branches, impossibly long and graceful, wept downwards, their tips brushing the ground, forming a magnificent, natural arbor. The leaves, usually a vibrant, shimmering green, were muted here, a dull, faded gray, and instead of the usual gentle rustle, they hung utterly still, silent. There were no glowing mosses here, no chiming flowers. The air was heavy, thick with a palpable sense of exhaustion. It felt as if the very dreams of the glade had fallen asleep and simply hadn't woken up. It's so quiet, Elara whispered, the silence feeling oppressive after the gentle hum of the journey. The Whispering Willow's dreams are fading, Lumina confirmed, its light dimming slightly in sorrow. Its tapestries of hope are unraveling. The creatures that once rested beneath its branches, sharing their dreams, have moved on, their own sleep growing restless. Elara approached the colossal tree, her heart filled with empathy. She reached out a hand, touching one of the heavy, silent leaves. It felt lifeless, brittle, like parchment left too long in the sun. She looked up into the vast, silent canopy, imagining the vibrant, luminous dream tapestries Lumina had described, now replaced by this silent gray emptiness. What kind of story? Elara asked Lumina, her voice barely a whisper. What would wake such an ancient dreamer? A story of courage, perhaps, Lumina suggested softly. Of finding light in the darkest of places. A story from your own heart, Elara. The willow doesn't need grand adventures, it needs genuine feeling, the warmth of a true spirit. Elara sat down at the base of the enormous willow, leaning her back against its silent trunk. She closed her eyes, trying to connect with the ancient tree, to feel its sadness, its weariness. She thought about her own journey, the initial awe, the unexpected voice, the seed of light in her hand, the reawakening of the moondew meadow. It was a story of finding her own courage, of listening to the whispers, of trusting her heart. She began to speak, her voice soft and steady, weaving her own tale. She told the willow about her quiet life, about always feeling drawn to the Whisperwood, about the moment she first heard the whispers calling to her. She described the awe of finding the heart, the shimmering teardrop, and the pure voice that spoke to her mind. She recounted her journey to the moon-dew meadow, her uncertainty, and the simple act of singing a lullaby that brought light back to a forgotten spring. She spoke of Lumina, her new friend, and the deep connection she now felt to the forest. As Elara spoke, a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer began to ripple through the gray leaves of the whispering willow. It was subtle at first, like a breath of wind passing through, but then it grew stronger. A tiny spark of gentle light appeared on one of the higher branches, then another, and another, like distant stars slowly emerging in a twilight sky. Elara continued her story, pouring her heart into every word, sharing her wonder, her small triumphs, and the burgeoning hope she felt for the Whisperwood. As she spoke of the kindness she felt for the forest, the sparks of light on the willow's branches began to coalesce, forming delicate luminous patterns, ethereal butterflies, tiny, shimmering birds and swirling mist shapes, each glowing with a soft dream-like luminescence. The whispering willow was beginning to dream again. The gray leaves slowly began to regain their color, a faint, shimmering green spreading from the veins outwards. A gentle, almost inaudible sigh rippled through the branches, a sound of deep, contented awakening. The air in the glade grew lighter, filled with the faint, sweet scent of slumbering dreams and newly stirred life. When Elara finished her story, the whispering willow glade was transformed. The magnificent tree glowed with hundreds of luminous dream tapestries woven into its branches, each one a soft, ethereal marvel. The leaves shimmered with a renewed, vibrant green, and a soft, melodic rustle, like a whispered lullaby, filled the air. The whispering returned to the glade, a deeper, more resonant hum, interwoven with the soft, sighing melody of the awakened willow. Lumina, perched on her shoulder, pulsed with joy. "You have given it a new story, Elara. A story of hope, of connection, of courage. The whispering willow dreams anew." Elara stood up, feeling a profound sense of peace and accomplishment. The seed in her hand, which she had almost forgotten, now glowed with a steady, warm light, a testament to the magic she had helped rekindle. She looked at the magnificent willow, its branches now alight with dreams, and felt a surge of warmth spread through her chest. "The heart is pleased, little listener," Lumina chimed, its voice full of delight. "Each thread you reweave strengthens the whole, but the journey is not yet complete. The Whisperwood has slumbered for too long, and its deepest secrets still await your touch." "Where to next?" Elara asked, her voice filled with quiet eagerness. She felt ready for whatever the Whisperwood might ask of her. Lumina fluttered off her shoulder, hovering before her, its light growing brighter, almost like a beacon. "No, we must seek the Psalmstone Caverns," it announced, its voice taking on a more serious yet still gentle tone. "Deep beneath the ancient roots, where the earth hums with forgotten melodies. The very resonance of the Whisperwood flows through those caverns, but its song has grown discordant, its harmony fractured. You must restore the ancient chord, Elara. You must bring back its true, pure note." Elara looked towards the deeper shadows of the forest, where the ancient roots of the Whisperwood seemed to plunge into the earth itself. The thought of caverns, deep and resonant, filled her with a new kind of anticipation. She had brought light and dreams. Now she was to bring harmony. The journey was far from over, and the Whisperwood song was still waiting for its full glorious return. With Lumina guiding her, Elara took a deep breath, ready for the next enchanting step into the heart of the magical forest. With Lumina guiding her, Elara took a deep breath, ready for the next enchanting step into the heart of the magical forest. The air grew cooler almost immediately, carrying a richer, earthier scent, not just the crisp green of leaves, but the damp, sweet smell of soil, ancient roots, and unseen moss. Lumina, sensing the shift, pulsed with a softer, more focused glow, casting a silver-blue path ahead. The forest floor here was no longer a carpet of soft leaves and dappled sunlight. Instead, colossal roots, thick as ancient tree trunks themselves, snaked across the ground, forming natural archways and gnarled staircases that descended into the earth. They were not merely obstacles but living pathways, their surfaces smoothed by centuries of growth, some draped in luminescent moss that pulsed faintly in response to Lumina's light. Elara placed her hand on one such root, feeling a faint, slow vibration beneath her palm, the deep, rhythmic pulse of the Whisperwood itself. As they ventured deeper, the canopy overhead grew thicker, the light from the sky dwindling to mere whispers of gray. Soon, they were enveloped in a twilight world, illuminated primarily by Lumana's steady radiance and the occasional shimmer of phosphorescent fungi clinging to the root walls. The sounds of the forest above, the rustle of leaves, the chirping of unseen birds, the gentle hum of wind through branches, began to recede, replaced by a profound, resonant quiet. Here in the heart of the root system, the silence wasn't empty. It was filled with the deep, slow breathing of the earth, the drip of unseen water, and a faint, almost imperceptible hum that seemed to vibrate in Elara's very bones. This hum, however, was not the harmonious song she sought. It was a single, low, melancholic note, stretched thin, like a forgotten memory echoing in an empty hall. It spoke of a vast, quiet sorrow, a deep-seated ache within the wood. Elara, with her dream weaver senses attuned to the world's emotional currents, felt it keenly. It was a sadness so ancient, it had become part of the very structure of the earth around them. The path twisted and turned, leading them through narrow passages where roots interwove like colossal braids, then opening into cavern-like spaces where the roots formed intricate, vaulted ceilings. These were not true caverns carved by water, but rather vast hollows created by the sheer scale of the Whisperwood's subterranean network. The walls were a tapestry of earth and root, interwoven with veins of crystal that caught Lumina's light and refracted it into tiny, dancing rainbows. "This is where the Whisperwood truly sings," Elara murmured, her voice hushed by the reverence of the place. "Or where it should sing." Lumina flickered in agreement, guiding her deeper into a particularly dark passage. Here, the sorrowful hum intensified slightly, gaining a discordant edge, like a single violin string played out of tune in an otherwise silent orchestra. Elara realized this was the disharmony she had been sent to mend, not just a silence, but a painful, protracted note of grief. They emerged into a larger chamber, circular and vast, its ceiling lost in shadow far above. In its center stood not a tree, but a colossal, root-bound monolith of dark stone, its surface slick with dampness and draped in thick, velvety moss. From this monolith, roots radiated outwards like spokes of a forgotten wheel, plunging into the earth or climbing towards the hidden ceiling. This was clearly a nexus, a central point of the Whisperwood's underground life. As Elara approached the monolith, she noticed something peculiar about the moss clinging to it. While some patches glowed with a faint, healthy green luminescence, others were dull, brittle, and almost gray, as if life had been slowly drained from them. The discordant hum was strongest here, emanating directly from the stone. Suddenly, a shift in the shadows. A section of the moss-covered monolith seemed to ripple, and from its surface, two ancient, craggy eyes, glowing with a soft emerald light, slowly opened. A deep, rumbling sigh, like the settling of mountains, echoed through the chamber. Another weaver of dreams. A voice resonated, not with sound waves through the air, but as a vibration through the earth itself, echoing in Elara's bones. It has been long since one has ventured so deep into the heartroots. Elara felt a thrill of awe, not fear. This was not an enemy, but an ancient guardian. She bowed her head slightly. "Greetings, Elder. I am Elara, a dream weaver from the sunken city of Eridor. I have come to help the Whisperwood. Its song is fading, and a great sorrow pervades its roots." The eyes of the root guardian, for that was clearly what it was, seemed to study her with an infinite patience. Its form was not fully defined, more a living extension of the monolith itself, a consciousness woven from stone, root, and ancient earth. Indeed, the song falters. The sorrow has grown heavy, heavier with each passing season. It clings to the heartstone, stifling its voice, dimming its light. Elara looked at the monolith, now understanding it to be the heartstone, the very core of the Whisperwood's subterranean being. "What is this sorrow, Elder? What caused it?" The guardian's gaze seemed to turn inward, a profound melancholy emanating from its ancient presence. "It is the echo of a great severing long, long ago, a time when the Whisperwood in its boundless growth and reach touched something it should not have. A connection was forged, then violently sundered. The pain of that severing, the memory of that lost connection, settled deep into the heartstone. It became a wound that never truly healed, only slumbered, until recently, when the threads of harmony grew too thin to hold it at bay." "A great severing," Elara repeated softly, trying to grasp the immense timescale this implied. And how can it be healed? The wound is not physical, little weaver, the guardian rumbled. It is a wound of memory, of spirit. The heartstone yearns to remember the whole truth, to acknowledge the pain, and then, only then, to release it. But the sorrow has formed a thick shroud, a tangle of forgotten dreams and fragmented echoes, trapping its true voice. Your task, Dreamweaver, is to gently unravel this shroud, to help the heartstone. Lumina pulsed excitedly, as if understanding the profound nature of the task. Elara felt a surge of trepidation, but also a deep sense of purpose. This was more than just singing a melody, it was about healing a foundational wound. How do I begin? She asked, her gaze fixed on the heartstone. You must commune with the heartstone directly, the guardian instructed, its voice growing softer, almost a whisper. Place your hands upon it. Let your dreams intertwine with its memories. Listen to the silent echoes within the sorrow. Find the threads, the forgotten fragments, and gently, with the light of your own dreams and the harmony you carry, begin to weave them back into understanding. Do not force, do not demand. Simply listen and mend. Elara nodded, her heart thrumming with a quiet resolve. She walked slowly towards the monolith, Lumina hovering protectively beside her. As she drew closer, the discordant hum grew louder, a buzzing in her ears, a pressure behind her eyes. It felt like walking into a dense fog of sadness. The gray, brittle moss seemed to reach out, cool and lifeless against her fingers. She placed both hands flat against the cold, damp surface of the heartstone. The instant her skin touched the stone, a profound wave of feeling washed over her. It wasn't just sadness, but a maelstrom of confusion, regret, longing, and a deep, aching loneliness. It was the accumulated grief of centuries, condensed and solidified within the ancient stone. Elara closed her eyes, shutting out Lumina's glow and the dim light of the chamber. She focused inward, opening her mind, allowing her dream weaver senses to expand, to reach out like delicate tendrils into the heartstone's core. Immediately, she was no longer in the cavern. She was adrift in a swirling vortex of muted colors and fragmented images. These were the heartstone's trapped memories, the forgotten dreams the guardian had spoken of. She saw flashes, immense, ancient roots plunging into depths unknown, reaching, searching. Then a sudden blinding flash of light, followed by an agonizing tear, a sensation of being ripped apart. A profound silence. A long, slow descent into a solitary darkness. The sorrow was not a malicious force, she realized, but a deep protective shell born of trauma. It was the Whisperwood's heart, recoiling from unbearable pain, burying its memory to survive. But in doing so, it had also buried its joy, its full song, its connection to the vibrant life above. Elara began to hum softly, a simple, wordless melody, a gentle lullaby. It was a song of comfort, of understanding, woven from the purest threads of her own dreams, dreams of warmth, of safety, of gentle light. She projected these feelings into the swirling vortex, letting them mingle with the heartstone's sorrow. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the muted colors in the vortex began to shift. A faint shimmer of green appeared amidst the gray, a hint of blue in the oppressive darkness. She focused on the feeling of severing she had experienced, trying to understand it more deeply. She saw the Whisperwood's roots, long before her time, growing beyond the known world, burrowing into realms of pure energy, seeking connection, seeking knowledge. It had found something vast, powerful, and utterly alien. A network of light and consciousness, immense and ancient, not unlike its own, but fundamentally different. The Whisperwood in its innocence had attempted to merge, to share its song. But the other entity, perhaps startled, perhaps too fragile, or perhaps too powerful, had reacted with an uncontrolled surge of energy. It wasn't an attack, but a catastrophic rejection, like two incompatible energies clashing. The Whisperwood's root tendrils had been violently recoiled, severed from the source, leaving a raw, gaping wound in its ethereal being. The memory of that violent recoil, the shock of separation, the profound loneliness of being suddenly cut off from something it had sought to embrace, that was the sorrow. It was the heartstone's grief, its self-imposed isolation to prevent further harm. Elara continued to weave her lullaby, her dreamlight, into these fragmented memories. She didn't try to erase the pain, but rather to acknowledge it, to wrap it in comfort and understanding. "Kit is all right to feel this," she projected. "It is all right to remember. I know why. You are safe now. You are not alone. Unwind and own." As she poured her essence into the heartstone, Lumina's light intensified outside, casting brilliant, dancing patterns on the cavern walls. The discordant hum within the chamber began to soften, to smooth out, becoming less a painful rasp and more a deep, resonant thrum. The grey, brittle moss on the monolith began to subtly change, a faint, healthy green blush returning to its surface. Hours passed, or perhaps mere moments. Time lost all meaning in the heartstone's embrace. Elara felt drained, yet profoundly connected. She had not removed the sorrow, but she had begun to untangle its most painful knots, to soothe its raw edges. She had given the heartstone permission to remember, and in remembering, to begin the long journey of healing. Finally, with a deep, shuddering breath that felt like her own, but also like the heartstone's, Elara slowly withdrew her hands. The moment her skin left the stone, the overwhelming sensations receded, leaving her trembling but clear-headed. She opened her eyes. The chamber was still lit by lumina, but there was a distinct difference. The air felt lighter, clearer. The moss on the heartstone now glowed with a consistent, soft green luminescence, no longer patchy and dull. And the melancholic hum was gone. In its place was a profound, steady thrum, like a giant ancient heartbeat, slow and strong. It was not the full, glorious song of the whisperwood, but it was a true, harmonious note, deep and pure. The root guardian, still partially merged with the monolith, opened its emerald eyes again, its gaze resting on Elara with a new depth of appreciation. "You have done well, Dreamweaver," it rumbled, its voice now softer, less burdened. "You have eased the initial grip of the sorrow. You have taught the heartstone to remember with grace, not just with pain." Elara felt a sense of quiet triumph. "But the full song is not yet returned." "No," the guardian confirmed. "The heartstone has only just begun to truly awaken." The severing left not only a memory of pain but also a lingering echo of the unknown connection. The whisperwood reached out to a realm it called the Starweave, a place of pure shimmering thought and light. While the initial contact was catastrophic, a faint, almost invisible thread of that connection still exists, buried deep within the earth where the roots first touched. The sorrow grew heavy, because the heartstone had not reconciled pain of severing with the lingering. Elara pondered this. The Starweave, a realm of pure thought and light, so powerful it had almost shattered the whisperwood. It sounded both dangerous and exhilarating. "And where is this lingering thread?" she asked, her gaze sweeping around the vast chamber. The guardian slowly turned its gaze towards a far wall, where the roots plunged even deeper into a narrow, dark fissure. "Beyond this chamber, where the deepest taproots of the whisperwood stretch into the very mantle of the earth, it is there, in the realm of the sunless depths, that the faint echo of the Starweave still resonates. To truly restore the whisperwood song, you must not only soothe the memory of the severing, but also understand and integrate the truth of the Starweave connection. Only then can the whisperwood find its true balance," its full, vibrant voice. Elara looked at the fissure, a new layer of challenge and mystery unfolding before her. The sunless depths. A place even deeper, darker, and more ancient than this heartroot chamber. Lumina pulsed beside her, its light unwavering, a beacon against the unknown. She had brought light and dreams, and she had begun to bring harmony. But the journey was far from over. The whisperwood's song, she realized, was a tapestry woven from light and shadow, sorrow and wonder, and she was only just beginning to see the full pattern. With a renewed sense of purpose, Elara took another deep breath, ready for the next enchanting step into the deeper heart of the magical forest. With a renewed sense of purpose, Elara took another deep breath, ready for the next enchanting step into the deeper heart of the magical forest. The path she chose was less defined than the one to the truth chamber, a shimmering trail visible only to eyes attuned to magic. It wound deeper into the ancient canopy, where the trees grew taller, their branches laced with glowing moss and vines that pulsed with soft internal light. The air grew cooler, carrying a scent of damp earth, forgotten blossoms, and something else, a faint, sweet melancholy that tugged at Elara's heart. Here, the whisperwood's song was quieter, more fragmented. She heard not the robust harmony she had begun to weave, but whispers of old sorrow, a lullaby half forgotten. Lumina, nestled in her hand, pulsed a little faster, its light reaching out, as if seeking something lost. Elara soon noticed that the forest creatures here were different. Not frightened, not overtly sad, but muted. A family of cloud hares, usually bounding with fluffy joy, moved with a hesitant grace, their ears drooping slightly. A group of shimmer moths, their wings typically a riot of iridescent color, flitted with dimmed luminescence. They looked at Elara with large, knowing eyes, a silent plea in their gaze. "Hello, little ones," Elara murmured, extending a hand. A shimmer moth, its wings a pale silver where they should have been emerald, landed delicately on her fingertip. It felt cold, despite the warmth of Lumina. "What troubles you?" The moth didn't speak in words, but Elara, with her dream weaver's sensitivity, felt a wave of longing, a quiet ache for something absent. It wasn't pain, but a deep, profound yearning. She understood. They missed the full, vibrant song of their home. She walked on, occasionally stopping to offer a wisp of a dream to a particularly quiet creature, a dream of sun-dappled glades for the cloud hares, a dream of starlit dances for the shimmer moths. Each time Lumina brightened momentarily, and the creature would stir, a flicker of its old self returning before the pervasive melancholy settled back in. Elara realized she wasn't just bringing light, she was bringing memory, a reminder of what the whisper would be. The trees began to change again, their bark twisting into ancient, gnarled patterns that seemed to tell stories of ages past. The canopy grew so thick that only slivers of the sky were visible, yet the forest floor was not dark, illuminated by myriad bioluminescent fungi and the soft glow of the plant life. Deep within this ancient heart, Elara felt a growing presence, like a vast sleeping giant. She followed the strongest pull of Lumina, which now thrummed steadily, leading her to a clearing unlike any she had seen. It wasn't open to the sky, but enclosed by colossal, hollowed-out tree trunks that formed a natural cathedral. In the very center stood a tree of unimaginable age and size. Its bark was smooth as polished jade in some places, deeply furrowed like ancient wisdom in others. Its branches, thicker than Elara's house, reached not towards the hidden sky, but inwards, intertwining to form a living dome. This was the heartwood, the true core of the whisperwood. But it was not vibrant. A delicate, almost invisible veil of shimmering mist hung around it, muffling its presence like a cloak of deep slumber. The air here was heavy with a profound stillness, a silence that wasn't peaceful, but expectant, as if the entire forest held its breath. The leaves on the heartwood were a muted sage green, not the lively emerald she expected. No birds sang here, no insects buzzed. Only the soft hum of Lumina and the beat of Elara's own heart broke the silence. She approached the heartwood, her steps reverent. As she drew closer, she could feel it, a vast ancient consciousness, deeply, deeply asleep. But it was not a peaceful sleep. She could sense faint tremors within the veil, like the stirrings of a troubled dream. This was the source of the whisperwood's fragmented song, the root of its lingering sorrow. The heartwood, the very spirit of the forest, was caught in a deep magical slumber, and its dreams were unsettled. Lumina pulsed fiercely now, vibrating in her palm. It wasn't just light. It was an echo of the heartwood's own latent energy, a forgotten spark. Elara knew what she had to do. She had to enter the heartwood's dream. She placed her hand gently on the smooth, cool bark of the colossal tree. A faint shimmer rippled across its surface, like water disturbed. Closing her eyes, Elara focused, letting her dream weaver's senses expand, reaching out, not just with her mind, but with her very being towards the slumbering giant. Lumina flared, bathing her in its gentle golden light, anchoring her to the waking world. A soft sigh seemed to ripple through the clearing, and the veil around the heartwood shimmered violently. Elara felt herself falling, not physically, but into a boundless expanse of swirling colors and muted sounds. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the clearing. She stood in a landscape of shifting light and shadow, a dreamscape woven from the heartwood's consciousness. Towering trees made of starlight reached into a sky of deep indigo, but their leaves drooped, their branches heavy with unfallen dew that glittered like frozen tears. Rivers of shimmering mist flowed silently across plains of dreaming grass. This was the heartwood's inner world, beautiful yet tinged with a deep, pervasive sadness. Elara saw fragments of memories swirling around her, visions of ancient forest creatures dancing under a vibrant moon, echoes of laughter from long-lost dryads, glimpses of sunlight filtering through emerald leaves. But these joyful memories were fleeting, quickly overshadowed by darker, more persistent images. She saw a memory of a great storm ages ago that had torn through the forest, leaving devastation. Not just physical damage, but a profound wound to the heartwood's spirit, a deep sorrow for what was lost. She saw visions of creatures leaving the forest, seeking solace elsewhere, their departure adding to the heartwood's grief. And most prominently, a recurring nightmare, a shadowy, formless entity, not evil, but a manifestation of the heartwood's own despair and loneliness, slowly consuming the forest's light, one dream at a time. This wasn't an external enemy, but an internal wound, a self-perpetuating cycle of sorrow. Elara realized that the heartwood had not just fallen asleep, it had retreated into this sorrowful dreamscape, unable to process its ancient grief. The shadow of the whisperwood was this profound, forgotten sorrow, manifesting as a pervasive listlessness. Taking a deep breath, Elara began her work. Lumina, still pulsing in her hand, cast a warm, steady glow, pushing back the encroaching shadows of despair. She walked through the dreamscape, not fighting the sorrow, but acknowledging it. She reached out to the shimmering fragments of forgotten joy, gently gathering them, weaving them with threads of hope and understanding. She found herself at the base of a colossal, spectral tree, the dream form of the heartwood itself. Its branches were heavy with the frozen tears of memory, its roots tangled with the despairing shadow entity. This was the core of its troubled sleep. Elara placed her hands on the spectral bark. "Oh, ancient one," she whispered, her voice echoing softly through the dream. "I understand your sorrow. Your loss was great and your grief has been long. But the forest misses your song. Your children need your light." She began to weave a dream, not just any dream, but a dream of remembrance yielding renewal. She wove in the forgotten laughter, the vibrant dances, the joy of sun-dappled glades, but she didn't ignore the sorrow. Instead, she wove the sorrow in as a thread of strength, a testament to resilience. She showed the heartwood how loss could make appreciation deeper, how healing could be a song in itself. She poured her own dreams into the heartwood's slumber, dreams of the truths finding their way home, of the cloud hares regaining their joyous bounds, of the shimmer moths dancing with full luminescence. She showed it the harmony she had already begun to re-establish, the beginnings of its song returning, waiting for its conductor. Lumina flared, brighter than ever before, resonating with the ancient magic of the heartwood. Its light pushed back the shadowy despair, not banishing it, but transforming it. The shadow began to dissipate, not into nothingness, but into a gentle silvery mist that swirled with the starlight, a testament to sorrow acknowledged and integrated, not forgotten. The frozen tears on the spectral tree began to melt, flowing into rivers of clear, sparkling water that nourished the dream grass. The leaves on the starlight trees unfurled, turning a vibrant, hopeful green. A gentle breeze, scented with the promise of renewal, rustled through the dream canopy, and for the first time, Elara heard it, a soft, harmonious hum, the beginning of the heartwood's awakening song. She felt a profound connection, a deep ancient wisdom flowing into her, not as words, but as understanding. The heartwood was stirring. It was not just waking, it was remembering, healing, and embracing its full complex self. With a final surge of light from Lumina, Elara felt herself gently lifted, pulled back from the dreamscape. She opened her eyes, finding herself back in the clearing, her hand still resting on the heartwood's bark. But everything was different. The subtle veil of mist was gone. The heartwood, once muted, now glowed with a soft internal radiance, a vibrant emerald pulsing through its ancient bark. Its branches, reaching inwards, now unfurled new, luminous leaves, a brilliant emerald that shimmered with life. The air was no longer heavy with stillness, but alive with a gentle, resonant hum, a deep, comforting vibration that resonated through the very earth. A single clear note, pure and true, rose from the heartwood, followed by another and another, weaving together into a breathtaking melody. It wasn't just the heartwood singing, it was the entire whisperwood, responding to its core. Birds, previously silent, burst into jubilant song from the surrounding ancient trees. Shimmer moths, their wings now a riot of vibrant colors, danced in intricate patterns around the heartwood, their luminescence dazzling. Cloud hares, their ears perked high, bounced with renewed energy. The whisperwood's song was whole again. It was a symphony of light and shadow, not because the shadow was vanquished, but because it had been understood, embraced, and woven into the tapestry of wonder. The sorrow was no longer a burden, but a deep, resonant chord that gave depth and meaning to the joy. Elara felt a deep sense of peace settle over her, a quiet triumph. Lumina pulsed gently in her hand, its light unwavering, a soft echo of the heartwood's vibrant glow. She had brought light, and she had woven dreams, and in doing so, she had helped the heartwood remember its own song, its own strength. As she turned to leave, a single luminous petal, soft as velvet and glowing with emerald light, detached itself from the heartwood and drifted gently into her open palm. It was a silent blessing, a piece of the whisperwood's renewed magic, a reminder of the harmony she had helped restore. Elara knew her journey was complete. For now. The whisperwood would continue its song, ever changing, ever growing. She had left her mark, and in return, the forest had woven a piece of its ancient magic into her own spirit. With a final content sigh, Elara took another deep breath, the sweet, harmonious song of the whisperwood filling her heart as she began her gentle journey home, ready to dream new dreams under a starlit sky, carrying the glow of Lumina and the heartwood's blessing within her.